Imagine it's your senior year of high school, the last semester, and every single day in the morning you're driving to school and you're thinking, I just cannot wait to get out of this place. And every morning, my friend Bryn and her boyfriend Colin at the time always met up in the parking lot, and they parked next to us. And so every single day I would drive my sister to school. She's a year younger than me, and in the car we always chose different songs to listen to, and we would surprise each other like what was going to come today, and each day we switched off, and so we never knew if the person was going to pick something we would actually like, if it was going to be a for fun song, or what it was going to be. Well, in high school I was a super big Taylor Swift fan, and my sister one day goes in the car and she's like, hey, I have this super great remix of a Taylor Swift song you're really gonna like. So I'm really excited, and she's like, but you have to wait because I want you to be able to dance to it with me. And I'm like, okay. So we're driving to school and I'm like listening to just something random, I don't remember what it was, and finally we're about to pull into the parking lot and she's like, I'm gonna start it right now. I'm like, okay, start it right now. So she starts the song, and this is a remix of Blank Space by Taylor Swift. So you get the point. This is not a conventional song by any means, and so it was definitely not what I was expecting. But we got about 3/4 of the way through with headbanging, and we see Bryn storm out of the car, and Colin just gets out and is standing there. And so we pause the song and like, okay, you know, we'll listen to it later. Kind of strange. And we get out and I'm like, Colin, what's wrong? And he was like, well, we kind of got into an argument, and when we got into an argument, Bryn was kind of throwing a fit. She had her feet up on the dash, and she, like, very slightly kicked the windshield, and it just shattered. And so we look over, and his windshield is just shattered. You can't drive it. And my sister and I look at each other like, we don't know what to tell him. And so we're like, oh, we're really sorry, you know, so we're all walking into school, and Bryn's up ahead, all mad, and he's like, but don't say anything, okay? Well, of course, when someone kicks someone else's windshield and it shatters, like, you can't keep that a secret. So my sister and I were like, yeah, like, guess what happened to Colin's windshield? And we're just talking about it. Well, after school, we're listening to this song as, we only got halfway through it, so when we got in the car, it started playing, and we're like, why not? So we're in about the middle of the song, and my sister's feet are up on the dash, and she's like, here, we're listening to this part.
Like a daydream.
And so we're at that part, and she stops and pauses it, and she goes, I really just need to know, how hard do you have to kick the windshield to crack it? I feel like she must have kicked it pretty hard. I'm like, alright, well, do you want to do it? And I was like, but I really would prefer you not to crack it. It's kind of expensive to fix. And she's like, I won't really crack it. Like, I'm just gonna tap it. And so she goes, gives it a little tap, and I kid you not, it shattered and spiderwebbed across the entire windshield. So then I'm just sitting there looking at her. She's looking at me, and we just started busting out laughing. It's like, you barely touched it, and it really did shatter. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do now. So we drove home, and we did not finish the rest of the 30 seconds left of the song. And we're like, just looking at each other, like, okay. So we get home, and we're like, well, what are we gonna do now? I guess I'm gonna have to have someone bring me to school the next day. And so the next day I had my friend Skylar come and get us, and we're in the car, and we're like, yeah. She goes, so what happened to your car? And I go, you know, we just like kicked the windshield and it just cracked all the way across. She goes, oh my gosh, why would you kick it hard enough to crack it? Why would you kick it in the first place? And we're like, it's a long story, but we barely touched it. She's like, no. And I'm like, yeah, we barely touched it. And so she goes, well, and just kicks her own windshield I usually drive everywhere, so she was letting me drive her car as she got there. So she's sitting in the passenger seat, kicks her own windshield, and hers did not shatter as hard. She didn't kick it as hard as my sister did, but it did crack, and it left about like a little line like this and one going up, and so she also had to get her windshield fixed. And so every time I hear this song, I think about the day that my sister introduced it, and then I also had 3 broken windshields within a 24-hour period, because I've never had a broken windshield before in my life, except for that time. So I hope you remember the remix or the cover of the Taylor Swift song Blank Space by I Prevail. And so for a little bit to end